a process for how to select other multisigs as well. And we have the one from reward systems that we're going to have to select people now. And there's all the working groups coming. So it happened to be a big topic that we should have some guidance around it. And then, yeah, so the call today will be basically that. I think it's good to open space for discussion and just sharing a little bit more of the plan we have for the Commons upgrade and making sure everyone is up to date with that. And I would love if everybody takes 2 minutes to vote on Snapshot today. We have 2 days left for the vote to close. And then some other updates, but I want to start with a cute intro game today. I want everyone to say something that you really admire on yourself, and then pick one person to say something you really admire on them. And it can be very simple, like a few words each. And just because I think we don't appreciate ourselves enough. And it's always easy to appreciate ourselves when we appreciate others. So the real intention is to have some self-love, but make it easier by giving love to someone else too. And I'll pass to Ryder to kick us off.
Coming in strong. I don't know if I need to admire anyone else in order to admire myself. I've had like a strong self-gratitude practice for a long time, and just got back from a 2-week earth building trip in the desert. And with my little team of 3, we also did this practice of self-gratitude and gratitude for each other. So I think, but it's also really great to props and admire people. So I haven't been online in a while, but I feel really called to just kind of rise up my comrade Aloysius. And honestly, the admiration feels more nonverbal and wordless. It's kind of like this, like, even if the mood's not suited, like that's a lot of the movements, at least with my upper body, that I can share, and some like some love there for all the talents and how well they are able to access those and share those with us and with others. And for myself, the way I'm able to straddle both my like subtleness and softness with my bigness and my weirdness. Thank you, Livy, for this opportunity, and I will pass it to Durgeras. Nice to see you.
Can somebody tell me what the question is? Because I came in right as it was being passed.
Just a practice of self-gratitude and gratitude for others. So something you admire on yourself, and then pick one person to say something you admire on them.
I'm glad that my identity is largely concerned with things that are not myself these days. I didn't think, coming from growing up under narcissistic abuse, that was ever going to be possible. And so I'm super happy with myself. I still have some of those sort of modes of talking and being, just some of which is from autism, but I'm really grateful that I've been able to kind of take up this subversion concept for myself, so that I can subvert the thing, and so subversion, I've come to understand, is a part of spirituality, it's part of social life, it's part of ethical life, it's all part of that, and that kind of lives inside of me these days. So not being an individual, I think, is super important. So I'm not successful at that all the time, and I can't maintain it all the time, but it certainly is a core principle of my life, and I'm grateful that that's true. Furthermore, I'm grateful that I've somehow managed to sustain that for a long enough period of time that I've been able to find people who appreciate and like to have that kind of thinking around, and case in point is basically this entire token engineering commons, frankly, so there's spiral dynamics groups and other groups. I'm even so I'm in a lot of groups now that seem to allow for that. So I'm really grateful for that. So I guess I'm also grateful for all the people who keep coming in who are so awesome. I mean, Griff and Livy maybe are like the big signposts here, but also Juan and even the newer folks, Ryder and Aloysius and I mean, there's too many to name, Nate and Tam and everyone really. So thank you all for creating that space for me to express my more full self. And I'll pass it to Griff or Juan. Sorry.
Yeah, I like about myself that I try to be empathic. Like, there's people that sometimes see other people and struggle to feel what others are feeling. But for me, when I see someone, I like to place myself in their shoes, and I don't know. That's something I like about myself. And I share with Durgas that there's a lot of respect and admiration for a lot of people here, and that I really like that like the good intentions that are behind all this, and that sometimes when you have like a very innovative idea, like sometimes you can become frustrated if people don't understand it. But I feel that we are doing a really good job at communicating, and giving importance to communicate, and to explain and to make people learn about what we're talking about, because it's not just like, okay, I'm right, and being stubborn about it, but also to have like the compassion to teach others, and to not impose anything, but convince. So I think that's great. And I will pass to Nate.
Before you get it, Nate, just to I think we're derailing a little bit of the game. Just one thing that you really admire on yourself, and then pick one person to say one thing that you admire on them.
All right. Thank you, Wonka, and thank you, Livy. This is not really gratitude. It's not really. I will say that I admire my positivity and resiliency, and I'll say, Griff, I've always admired your drive, and I think that is something that I've been trying to adopt myself. So thank you, and I admire that. And I would say, Griff, go next, but I think you should go last again. So I'm going to just pass it to Tam.
Okay. Just one. I feel like I could write a list, but I'm gonna pick one, and I think it's that. I think it's we admire about ourselves things we admire about other people, things we admire about ourselves, and like my word is so solid. Like if I say I'm gonna do something, like that is not gonna not get done. Like the world would have to end before that thing doesn't get done. So I feel like I really appreciate that about myself and other people. I am also a hustler. I love that. Like I have so much drive and energy, and it's like I want to do everything, and I feel like I'm unstoppable. I love that too, and I'm gonna stop saying things. But I think it's important to reflect on the things you appreciate about yourself, and then your flaws too, like where you can make improvements. Now, should I say something about somebody else? I admire everyone in here. Those I've worked with very closely, of course, and even the people that are here because of their open spirit and curiosity. I think I'm going to say I admire Eduardo. I really appreciate how he grows. You know, I feel like the last year there's been so much growth in terms of his understanding of token engineering and the community and how active he is. And I want to say, I guess I admire and appreciate that. I'll pass to Aloysius.
Thank you, Tim. I'm going to say that I admire Ryder, my homie. Ryder's ability to anticipate the needs of the people around them is something that resonates with me, that care place. I appreciate that. In myself, I'd say I appreciate my shadows. I don't know. I've been through a lot, and everything that I've been through, I've chosen to learn from it. So that's what I appreciate, is my curiosity and continue to like keep wanting to learn, even though it's painful. Yeah. I'm gonna pass to I don't know who has it got. Zeptimus?
Yeah, thanks, Aloysius. Yeah, for me, one thing I admire about myself, it's like I'm very chill. Like, you know, if there is a bunch of tasks to do, you know, it's like one at a time. And yeah, I'm pretty chill. And if I had to say something, like I go with a very easy one. Like I really admire like Livy. You always keep like every decision being human centered, and yeah, this is so admirable because for me sometimes it's like, you know, efficiency, like, you know, do this, do that, but you always keep it so human centered, and yeah, that's one of our core values. So yeah, I admire that so much, and I'll pass it to you.
Thank you. Something I admire on myself. I think I'm very brave and not afraid of changes. Like I don't think fear is a big thing in my life, and I feel very content about that. And someone I admire, I think I'll pick Mitch because that has been something very resonant to me of how I admire your with how simple you make complicated things look like. It seems like you get like a big piece of a huge something, and then like in the end of the day it's done. And that's something I admire a lot, and I hope I can bring more into my life. And I'll pass to Griff.
So something I admire about myself is my ability to find good people and figure out what they like to do and put them in a place to succeed, or like in a way delegation, kind of in that realm. I feel like I'm doing a good job at that, and it's been working out well. And something I admire about Septimus is like just reliability. Actually, what a lot of the stuff Tam also said about herself, I feel like Septimus always delivers as well, you know, and something that both of them are incredibly excel at. It's just like being like, going to do something. Yes, it's going to happen. I'm going to do it. You know, yeah, we're going to have every call recorded, even if I have to do it myself. Yeah, and with that, I'll pass it to Eduardo.
Thank you, Griff. What I admire about myself, it's the capacity that I have to be, even if it is awkward, to be vulnerable, and the deconstruction of myself that led to this process. because coming from a village of 200 people in the border with Costa Rica, raised in a Catholic environment with prejudice and blah, 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 coming to a virtual space and being able to be vulnerable took a long time for me to achieve that little space of vulnerability. And I like that. And I sort of keep that as a pride to myself. And something that I admire, and this is not because it's payback, it's because it happened to me randomly 2 weeks ago. My partner, I was talking to him and I told him like, hey, I feel that in the past month I have learned so much from working with him. And he stared at me and he is like, you haven't realized, do you? And I'm like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And he is like, you are starting to talk like her. I have never met her. I don't know how she looks. But now every time I hear your meetings, I see that you start explaining stuff like her. And that's a little bit weird, but I can see your improvement. So yeah, kudos on that. And I will pass it on to Nick.
Hi, thank you. So something I admire about myself, I guess, I'm endlessly curious. Like I just always want to learn more. Just give me more stuff to devour and learn. Something I admire, Griff's energy. That was one of the big first things I noticed in the TEC, just like in meetings, it's just so infectious. It's like, yeah, he's like the sun. I don't know. I pass to G.
Thank you. I guess something I admire about myself is that I'm a generalist of sorts. So usually the phrase "jack of all trades, master of none" is denigrated for being not specifically good at anything, hypothetically. But I take it as a kind of a point of pride to be willing to try anything and everything, and just do my best at learning what it's about. And somebody I admire is Aloysius for her perseverance when it's she's made us aware that she's has like some particular difficulties being autistic, and she's a veteran, and it's a very impressive resume that they have. So yeah, appreciate being able to do stuff alongside.
Griel, do you want to go next? We can't hear you. I see you're unmuted, but your mic is not working. Feel free to jump in and out, and if at any point you want to talk, just jump in. And I'll pass to Mitch.
Thanks. I guess something I admire about myself is when I encounter a really frustrating situation, my instinct is to find the humor in it. So I don't know, I think there's always something laughable about just a really shitty situation. So I really like that in myself because it keeps me grounded. And I'd like to I was going to praise Griff, but I figured I can't let that get to his ego, all this praise. So I'm going to praise Lauren, who's not actually in this call. But we both started doing all this stuff around the same time, and we've really grown a lot, like as coworkers and friends. And so it's been really cool about like how we learn to work together, and like we're so similar in ways that we often butt heads, but then similar in ways that we feed off of each other's energy, 50-50 split. It's either one way or the other, but I've really come to appreciate that with time. And I don't know if I was the last one, but I can give it back to you, Livy.
Yeah, you were the last one. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. So getting into the agenda, share my screen.
Quick technical question before we start. As a confused Pacific timer, has there been a permanent shift in European time that has shifted the whole TEC calendar, but reflecting in the calendar app yet?
Even better. Even better. Only some shift because it depends on who makes the calendar event. If they were in Europe when they made it, then it shifts. And oh my gosh, even better, time zones switch for the US people next week. So it's probably just going to switch back for you. For me, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. My calendar is just going to be messed up for 2 weeks.
Because no one ever knows where you are.
Yeah. And I make some of these events, and so it just depends on where I was when I made them.
So we'll all be vigilant about the calendar, and we'll all be gracious to each other. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Okay, first things first. So, maybe I'll just go into this other topics first before we jump into the debate one. So the vote on Snapshot, sorry, this is a poor agenda. Actually, I could have done a better job here. But the vote on Snapshot, let me put this link in here. We have 2 days left. So please take a look. There's a little TLDR in here that's all I'm proposing inside of this. And then the full proposal is here. And also an update on the template. So I tested making this proposal, the template that Eduardo made, and it's great. There was just a few changes that I think it made sense, and maybe we can change for this being the template with just slight changes. The main thing I added was this TLDR because I think it's a good practice for us to have like something that briefly explains the whole thing, and that can be in the front page of the vote on token log. So when people come here, they know everything is happening, but they can find more information in the forum. And then I looked it up for some suggestions that we had last week about creating tags on discourse, and it is possible. I had to get in a call in the middle of looking into that, but tags are possible for proposals. So we can restructure the forum for that. And I wonder if anyone is interested in taking that on as like, how can we make the forum better now, and look into the labels and reframe like the templates and the categories we have there now, especially in the voting session.
Sorry, when you mean to improve, do you mean to sort of sync the template from the proposal with the options and labels that are on the proposal subforum?
So here is where somewhere here tags, I think. But then we can, is this it? Sorry, I need to research a little bit better, but I know we can do it. But then when we see a proposal, for example, here in the proposal section, if I click on advice process, there is a template that is not good anymore.
So you mean
Hmm?
so you mean to update the categories? and those 3 or 4 categories, we will keep them like funding proposal, a cultural proposal, and a technical proposal kind of categories.
Yeah, so something we discussed last time was that maybe we kill these categories and we just add tags to proposals that all go to the proposal category. So when we are sending something, it was that discussion, remember, from like, should we move from advice process to another category to another category? So maybe we can just have advice process and proposals, and then everything can go to proposals. We can put labels, and some things can stay on advice process without necessarily being a proposal that will go somewhere else. Does it make sense, or somebody thinks differently?
I honestly think if you just pull advice process into its own section, it'd be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
For a matter of understanding the sections, I think it would be cleaner to have the 3 kind of type of proposals visible rather than only tagged, just because people can see it and immediately click on it. And for example, a category where it says conviction voting, they can see all the proposals that are tagged on the conviction voting. Or if it's a technical decision, they can click on that and go straight to there. Also to advice process. I think the concepts and the description by itself of the name of the category of the proposal, it's so self-explanatory that it helps people to navigate this otherwise a little bit chaotic space.
Okay, I think this topic needs more debate. Then maybe we can have another call to discuss this, or maybe you, Eduardo, and Nate would like to collaborate on it, and maybe anybody else.
I'd be down.
Sure.
Cool.
We can work on a small version of this and then bring it to the next Softgov or something like that, maybe.
Cool. That
Can
sounds
I ask a question about the current snapshot vote? So I read the forum post and I like everything about the proposal, but I was just curious of why we did not want to utilize approval voting.
Yay!
do you want to talk, Conceptions?
Oh, this mic. Yeah, I really like approval voting so much. Like, yeah, it just felt so great. Like Nate also likes it. I don't know. Like I feel it's it's so clean. It's so easy to understand, and yeah, I mean it's my favorite type of vote for almost everything. Like it's good for multiple choices, but it's also good for individual. Like it's only bad when like approval voting is bad only when you have like 2 political sides and one is represented in like 3 or 4 proposals and only on the other only have 1, then it's kind of bad. But for the rest it's my favorite. Yeah, back to you, Nate.
Well, I was just going to say as well, the quadratic ranked choice voting. Are we going to have to submit our own strategy through Snapshot?
So I have some updates on that too. First, answering the first question, at least my motivation, and I'm open to be challenged, but our governance structure is already super complex because we are going on the polycentric governance route and having multiple ways for making decisions, because there are multiple decisions that deserve specific types of directions and processes. And then I think we need to prioritize some types of voting over others and understand what's the real difference between one thing and another, and how would we benefit from having two types of similar votes when people could be easily confused about them. So thinking about our use cases, and I was chatting about this with Griff too. He gave a lot of good ideas about having using quadratic voting mainly because we have a very quite unequal distribution of tokens now, and using conviction voting, using quadratic voting will just make things a little bit more balanced. And then ranked choice voting was the perfect option for snapshot runoff. So we already have a reason to pick that one. And ranked choice voting can also be used for the same reasons that approval voting would be used. And the difference is so small that it would, for me, it doesn't justify adding one more point of complexity. And then the route we're choosing, if this proposal passes, is that we would create a type of voting that is quadratic ranked choice voting. So both voting types would be quadratic. And to execute that, we're talking to Pedro, who is looking into it and seeing if we can create a new strategy that gives us the option of just using those two votings. So it wouldn't be confusing to people that they would make a proposal and they would see 5 types of voting. We would just have those, and looking into a way to have that integrated in Snapshot.
I have a quick thing on the quadratic ranked choice voting. If we're going to try to use that for multisigs, we might want, let's say that it's 7 of, the top 7 people win. The way it might delete the bottom ones, right? Because ranked choice voting stops when somebody has over 50% of the majority vote of first place votes. So people would rank their top 7 or whatever choices, right? And then the ranked choice algorithm, my understanding, it just cuts out the choices and then the bottom ones all get 0%, and then the top ones will get a percentage. I just think we might want to test it and make sure that it will actually work for that use case. Or we can also just kind of be like, well, it's just actually the final votes that matter. Who cares what the ranked choice algorithm does exactly, because ranked choice only gives all of your votes to the first place vote. I don't know if it will work great for picking a list of people that will be 7 people on a multisig.
That's the one thing that bothered me, because the test one that we had, I think proposal 1 was the second choice for 4 people, yet it didn't get any type of consideration. And part of the benefit of ranked choice voting is seeing the different steps of who passes these thresholds of top 5, top 3, top 2, and moving on and forward. But you don't have that type of control with Snapshot, because it only selects the winner. So there's just one winner with the ranked choice voting. And so in that scenario, I do see the benefit of using approval voting for something like the multisig signers, where you can say, okay, you have 12 people and you can assign as many votes as you want to those people, and the top 7 get in.
The ranked choice, the results on the side, not the final result, but we saw the percentages that went to each place.
But it only shows you the first place percentages, right? So if you're picking 7 people, it's really about who your first place vote is. You don't get any allocation for your second or third or fourth or fifth.
I see. So maybe, okay, I'm open to approval voting, but maybe a way that ranked choice voting could work still in this sense is all of the people that were chosen as first options of somebody, or of like a percentage of people of tokens, then enter in the thing.
I think that if you have somebody who's in second place, that they don't show up as second place. Their ranking in that vote is as much as the last place person, and so that's the problem. There's no way to distinguish that with the current setup that they have, which is frustrating, but because, like I said, the benefit of ranked choice is being able to see the different steps at different time periods and who's got those ranks.
Rank choice is just only designed for one winner. It's just not, it doesn't really apply, is what I would say. I mean, it's not, we could hack it together, but as it starts, it doesn't fit that use case. Token log would probably be better.
I understand. So that's a problem now, because that proposal was already proposed, and then we would have to propose a new one to add approval voting.
I mean, approval voting is still available right now, right? Like, I don't disagree with the strategy of using quadratic for the future and the types of decisions that we're going to use on Snapshot, but we could submit an approval vote right now for the actual multisig.
Yeah, it's just that the proposal I submitted is like limiting the types of votes. That's what people are voting on, to limit the types of votes to those two. But yeah, I see where I was wrong there.
I think we're getting buried in bureaucracy here, where we know the vote that we want to take, but we have to pass the proposal first to validate the voting type, and I don't know. Sounds like it's getting a bit complicated.
Well, the problem is that we would have to have some type of parameter for that new voting type.
But I think we could just, we could just use quadratic voting as it normally is, right? You get to allocate your voting power to various numbers, various people in the list. So you could just use quadratic voting for ranking a list, and you say the top 7 win. It's just the ranking that screws everything up in ranked choice voting. I think. So what would be the? Sorry. I think you could basically say, hey, like, here's the list of 15 people. Allocate your voting power as you'd like, and it'd be like token log, basically, but it'd be with Snapshot, with quadratic voting, and then you just say, oh yeah, this much to this person, this much to this person, you get these results, top 7 win.
So what would be the difference of using quadratic voting and a difference, but the benefit of, like, would it matter too much?
For quadratic voting versus approval voting? Approval voting, you can vote for everyone. You can say it's yes or no. It doesn't give quantity. Like, you can't say, well, I like this person this many points and that person that many points. And quadratic voting also kind of incentivizes you to spread your vote out amongst people. The approval voting, you're just like, yeah, this guy's good enough. They passed my threshold. So you get a little bit more with quadratic voting. You get like more of a vector. You get an amount. Approval voting, you don't get an amount. So you don't get this, like, I like this person this much, and I like that person that much, Which, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, Do we need to be quantifying every human? I don't know, but it's a thing.
I guess it's also worth mentioning that the education that we need to do for the community for how to vote, like you have this many tokens, but it's quadratic. So make sure that you multiply by 2. So, you know, like divide by, you know what I mean? I feel like it's complicated to know, to share, to educate the community on how they would vote using quadratic when what they want to do is rank. Does that make sense, what I said?
Yeah.
But they wouldn't have to calculate anything. You would like show in the UI, like when you're voting, you see how many votes you have available, and it's just like token log.
Yeah,
But
that's my experience. Token log was tricky because it's you vote, like you apply tokens and then you see how much it is, and then you kind of have to calculate how much you have left. But how much you have left, square root of how much you have left. So if you want to vote for 7 people, I would just maybe we go through it and see, you know, if we wanted to use our token votes for ranking a list of 10 and choosing 7, we could experience what that would be like for the communities.
Do we want to do a test vote, a test quadratic vote? I mean,
It could
Liviade,
be
you set
something
it up.
Yeah, then we could sort of see what that experience would be like.
about Snapshot is that you can change your mind if you want.
What do you mean change your mind?
Like after you casted votes, you can redo it.
Oh, you can then recalibrate. You can apply more.
Mhm.
I think it'd be interesting to go just through the UX just to see if this is a choice that we want to propose. We know what it is like for the community to go through that process.
And while I put this up, we can also start chatting about the multisig. And I think there are 3 ideas in the table now. So Zaptimus has one way of moving forward. Tim has another. And then there was another thought of the call we all had together. So maybe, Tim, do you want to share a little bit about what you were thinking, and then we can pass around?
I actually don't think we have 3 different ideas. I think we're just merging ideas together. And the latest sort of epiphany I have is that we're all looking at different ways of selecting the multisig. And we're also starting to realize that not only would this process that's defined for the initial buy and maybe the reward system and maybe also source grid, but at least this one process would not only set the precedent for how we do multisigs, we vote multisigs, but it's probably also going to define the protocol for selecting community multisigs. So the community multisig would mean like, just so we separate it from individual working group multisigs or project multisigs, and just say if there's like tokens or community funds or something that's more for the entire community. And so as it's sort of like the original suggestion, was like, okay, maybe it's just the stewards. Then another suggestion was like, no, it should be, some percentage or all of the token holders. Then it was like the 1% of token holders should be eligible. Then it was like all token holders should be eligible. And then there was like some different ideas that all came out at the same time. And I think what I realized is that where we do have alignment actually is the community should probably decide this. Like maybe it's the community that should have a choice on what is the way that we want to select the multisig. Is it that we want to have it be stewards, or do we want to have a nomination process so that anyone can nominate or self-nominate? And then they get added to the entire list, and then we find a way, whatever the process is, to process that list. Or do we want to nominate, everyone sort of nominates a group? And similar to the way we're selecting these parameters, it's sort of like you think about the reasons why you're selecting these 7 people, and then you propose your reasons for it. And then you have the parameters, which is the group of people, the list, and then you have your rationale, and then those go up against each other. in sets. So I think that all three of those ways are possible, actually, but we're making the decisions sort of like, is it us that decides, or do we just say, here's option 1, option 2, option 3, maybe there's a fourth option, and then just have the community decide which way they want to see the TEC have multi-stakeholders be nominated and selected. That's my thinking. I'll pass to, I don't know, is that, you want to share your thoughts?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think we should, for example, like, yeah, this multisig is because it's holding so much funds of the commons. It needs to be, very accurate. But I think, like, for example, working group multisigs, like, they are not going to hold this much amount of funds. So we shouldn't, like, I feel it's okay to have, the working group leads and the most contributors in a DAO or whatever the working group decides. At the end of the day, I see working groups as small swarms, and if the working group do not present results or do something wrong, then when they ask again for funds, they are not going to get them. So yeah, it's like, they have interest on do things right. And yeah, I don't know if I should just talk about something else, but yeah, I feel like it's, like, I don't feel we are going to have like a lot of multisigs. Like, I feel like this one is probably like the most important, and I think also like this multisig should be for a period of time. Like, I feel like, I mean, from what I understand, like, the LP tokens should be vested. So, once they are there, maybe we don't move them never again. Maybe we decide not to put them vested, but that's something I like. And then the partnerships too. And then, that's done. And then the multisig is done, and we keep decentralized. And yeah, that's what I would love to see.
So the only concern I have with this current format for quadratic voting that I've seen when I voted is that I can put 100% of the votes on myself and don't disperse it to anybody else.
That's fine.
Do that on approval voting too.
No, on approval voting, you put the 100% to everyone. Like, you put 100% on Griff, on Livy, on Mitch, on Tam, on Aloysius, like, yeah, all 100%.
Yeah, but if you want to put just on yourself, it's going to be 100% on yourself, just the same.
Yeah, but
but then you have the potential top token holders all controlling the multisig. like it kind of, I don't know.
I don't see that as a problem.
We're going to have that problem anyway in conviction voting, so, I think that's just the reality of the token.
Yeah, but I guess I'm asking if the end goal is to have responsible people who are dedicated to the actual commons in charge of a large pool of funds, then that should be the end goal, and that's what we should cater our voting strategy towards, rather than having this type of like self-nomination. I've got 100,000 plus tech tokens, and all of a sudden I'm, with 4 other 100,000 tech tokens, and I'm not even a part of it. I'm just a big funder of it. I see that as being a problem.
Yeah, but the big holders, like, if they are going to vote whatever is best for the economy. Like, they are not going to vote for themselves, and if they know they are not going to do it, because if they don't do it, then the token is going to go down, and the economy is going to be bad. Like, they are going to.
But they can also just send it to themselves.
If they feel they are the ones who are going to do it better, yeah. If they feel that way.
I just disagree with that strategy. I think the end goal should have responsible people who are dedicated to the DAO in these types of positions, and our voting strategy should be centered around that one single goal.
So you think it should just be the stewards?
I do, yeah. To be honest with you, the entire nomination process for anybody is really flawed. I think we're going to end up with something that we don't like, and having people who are not engaged potentially. Like this is just hypotheticals, but like at the end of the day, you want to eliminate that type of risk, especially when we're dealing with this amount of funds.
Today, Tim said something that I think it's a good category to have. We have community funds and we'll have working group funds. And then for working group funds, the people in the working group can have their own process to decide who is going to be in the multi-sigs and like according to how much they participate, and the better people to decide that are the people that are most involved in the working groups. And then for community funds, that it's something like this. It's something like, something like this. I'm thinking like the reward system kind of enters into almost like a working group dynamic.
Yeah, so this is the last thing I'll mention about this is that, I think that if we can, the initial buy-in where we're going to have a single wallet custodying 200-something thousand wrapped XDAI, like, I think that should be held by the stewards. And if we want to change the multi-sig signers after that, after we disperse that initial and kind of lessen the pot, if you will, then I think we can move towards that. But like, I'm very much against throwing a ton of money with the potential of having somebody not with a vested interest in managing that money to be a signer at the beginning.
Yeah, I want to say that was the original thinking too. That it was, and I think that at the end, I've come to the idea that why do we decide? Why don't we like share the pros and cons of all of these different possibilities and let the community decide which method we use? It's after all a decision that affects the community. This is a cultural decision. I think this is a cultural decision that affects the community. So I feel like it's something that we shouldn't actually decide. We can, go through different options and then highlight the benefits and the risks of each option, but then really put it in the hands of the community to decide how they want that to be chosen, how they want to choose the multi-sig. I also think that there hasn't been that much, it's like me, Zep, and Mitch were commenting on the forum. There's not actually that much community really coming into it. So I also think creating a way for people to share their opinion by voting on it might be another way to get more consensus around the way that community multi-sig holders are selected.
Just quickly to comment on what just Tam mentioned, I think there should be also a space for people of the community to understand what a multisig is. Like, we are throwing out names and concepts here that maybe people doesn't understand. So that's blocking them from actually engaging on the forum and so on. So I will suggest that along the lane and subpart, we could have some kind of session. It could be in SoftGov that people can be explain these concepts and maybe get a grasp on it if they don't.
I strongly think that should be the bar for entry, is that if you don't know what you're getting into, you probably shouldn't sign up for it. If you don't know what a multi-sig is, like, I don't know if you should be responsible for signing it then. Like, we can give you resources, but like,
I would definitely agree that then you shouldn't be able to nominate yourself, but you should be able to make a decision on how the community then does the selection process. Also, This is like the TEC is all about education. Like, I would agree that I wouldn't want anyone to self-nominate if they didn't know, but I want our community to be able to weigh out the advantages and disadvantages of each option and then make an informed decision. Learning along.
It's not about the people who are going to nominate themselves or the capacity to know this or not. It's about the community knowledge rather than these people in specific.
Appreciate you bring a lot that perspective, Edu, of like, oh, we're talking about this for so long. There's people that don't know what this is, and I think there are some things that are really obvious for a lot of people, but then when they are explained in a certain way, there are things that click, and I think that's important. But yeah, I think the focus of the like we need kind of a quick solution for moving forward with this because we're reaching a deadline with this buy-in proposal. And what I'm hearing, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just curious, because we tried out the quadratic voting. What did you notice?
Well, I think this works well. It has like this, like Griff said, you have an ability to like weigh in a little bit better. And here there were like 9 people that were voted on, but then it's easy to pick the top 7.
So then, without modifying your original proposal, do we feel like quadratic voting would work for this situation? Does anybody feel like this wouldn't work?
There's one thing I don't like about this, and it's, like, it's very easy to just vote in the last second and influence the voting somehow. Like, like, okay, this is the top 7. I like the guy who's in the 9. Then I'm putting 100% of the tokens on 9, so he makes to the 7. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing.
I mean, if anything, you're incentivized to vote early because then you can influence everyone who votes after you. But last minute voting, I mean, I don't know. We might not have a solution right now, but we will have it later.
I mean, depends on the tokens you have, right?
I like it. I just worry about the list of names that are going to be on that. So that's my only concern.
I think that we can. I think that with these voting things, we should assume positive intent. Remember, we have everyone's address, and if they fuck around, we'll take away their C stack. Take it. Take it. Who are you?
Can I also just, in the last minute we have, raise, does it feel weird that it's like a little bit like a popularity contest, like a bunch of names and you get to choose a name? Does anyone else feel that it's a little bit like it might cause some strangeness in our community and in our relations? Like there's like winners and losers now and they're identifiable. Does that come across to anything else?
I'd love to hear from, sorry, go ahead, Durganis.
Just looking at those people, right? Everybody's going to vote for Griff because everybody knows Griff is. So OX66DF is not going to get any friggin' votes. You know what I mean? Like, so, and so it's just, that's a worry for me constantly.
I think that's a feature because honestly, if you know who these people are and you feel like you can trust them, then like why shouldn't they get that responsibility? I don't know who OX66 is, but I know who Griff is and I know who Livy is, so it's like that seems a bit intuitive that I like have a rapport with them and that I would trust them to do this task.
Yeah, I guess it just means that the most visible people will always win, right? Rather than the people who might actually do well at it, except they aren't known enough. They might be known from a few people who know that they would really be exceptional at this role, but they're not well known enough in the entire community to win this sort of kind of.
That's no different a dynamic than having just the stewards hold this role anyway.
Well, the other option was submitting groups, right? So somebody would think about the people that would be good, and then they would submit a group. And the stewards, at least, it's like it is a little different, but it is like then there's some stewards, right? There's it's a fixed group. I'm not necessarily even advocating for just the stewards, but more like a more thought through way of like how do we make sure that the objective is achieved. And that there's some thinking behind who's like who the group will be, who the finished 7 group will be, and some rationale, some description. Why did I choose this 7? Well, this person is really great at this and has been showing up a lot, and this person's on our Discord every week. They're always reliable. They're always dependable. I feel like the selection should be more understood. Like the selection should be better understood than I see Griff a lot, so he'll get my votes.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was advocating for the groups for the same reason, because I feel like it creates more of a positive intent rather than a negative exclusion. And having like thinking about the holistic group as well. How does people interact together, and not only for this multi-sig, but for others as well. And we are past the top of the hour, and there's graviton training starting now. Thank you everyone for the time.